Hi guys, welcome to the Product Marketing Show, where we discuss how to engage, convert, and retain customers with product marketing. This show is sponsored by Content Beta. Content Beta is an unlimited video, design, audio subscription for B2B software to make your product marketing content creation easy. Today we have with us Dawn Liu from Singapore. She's the head of marketing at IBM Singapore and leads branding and demand gen. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rish. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much for taking your time to come out and talk to our audience. So let's dive into it.
For sure.
So, Don, can you give us a quick overview about how you got into marketing and what do you do at IBM today?
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I've always had a passion in connecting with people, so being in marketing was really a natural calling for me. And I've had several roles across my career. And my latest stint is, like you mentioned, the head of marketing for IBM Singapore.
And what do you do at IBM today?
I head up the marketing team for Singapore, and that means that I lead up anything from brand marketing to connecting that to demand generation. And because IBM is a huge company, right? So my remit includes product marketing from across consulting to our technology products like software or hardware.
Interesting. Sometimes I think enterprise marketing is a different animal than you see SMB marketing.
It is. It's vastly different. I think from for consumer marketing, it's very the pace is really fast, right? So yeah, it's very different.
In your experience, how has branding and probably content marketing related to that campaigns changed in last 8 to 10 years?
I would break it down into two areas. Number one is that the landscape of content marketing platforms has really changed. The landscape of platforms which people use to consume content, from a heavy focus on mainstream media like TV and print when I started out my career, to more focus on digital and social platforms today. So that's one. Secondly is an increased connection to business outcomes. With technology today, I think the shift towards digital and the ability to connect brand and content efforts to demand generation has certainly improved by leaps and bounds. And I've seen that that's really a positive improvement that I've seen change for content marketing and branding in the last 10 years.
Interesting. Since you mentioned there are lots of new channels, digital side, and we see new channels coming up every day. I mean, today it's TikTok, yesterday it was YouTube. Now, in such a scenario, how does a marketer stay customer focused? How do you prioritize that? Which channels do you keep an eye on? How do you think that some channel will give you more ROI than the other?
Yeah, I think it comes down to data and people, right? So let me elaborate a little bit more on that. Where I work, I think we are fortunate to have a very robust insight platforms called Northern Light, which helps us pull together a significant amount of market data and insights. And on top of that, we have direct customer insights from platforms like Medallia, showing us survey scores and feedback directly from our clients, as well as client interest data aggregated from several digital platforms like website interest, clicks, and all, and that really helps us to be more customer centric. And so that's one on data, and secondly is people, right? I think speaking directly to our customers at industry events, that certainly helps me keep grounded and have an eye on what's working and what's not.
Interesting. I mean, now content marketing is huge, right? And a lot of people leverage on social media. What is your take on how to scale content for social media for an enterprise software?
Yeah, I think in terms of scaling content for social media, I would crystallize it in, again, two areas, right? Support and relevance. What I mean by that is innately people are social, but the hardest part is always the first step, right, to get started. If, however, you provide adequate support and make it relevant for individuals, your social media content and programs would scale organically. So, I think from my experience, that has certainly helped to scale the use of our content via our own social advocates, And social media is not always about one person, right? Creating all the content, but I think it's about a collective group of people with the same vision, um, and telling their stories in their own ways.
Nice. What is an underrated strategy for digital marketing world today?
Wow, it's a big question. But I think 360 thinking and integrated campaigns. I would say that in digital marketing today, sometimes it's really easy to say, hey, I want to buy an ad here, I want to do a social media post here, but I think what makes this all the more powerful is how do you connect your different touch points, from digital to your social post, to actually then how that actually contributes to your demand engine funnel. So I'd say 360 thinking and integrated campaigns. That's definitely something that's underrated and not talked about, right? The coolest things that people always talk about is what's the latest of digital and social and all, but really it's the thinking behind that makes a difference.
And how does marketing talk to sales? Maybe you can share your experience at IBM, because a lot of people, from my understanding, the marketing and sales, they stay separate units. Of course, they are separate, but how do you bridge the gap that hey, so that they can collaborate and generate results for the brand?
Yeah, I think it's very much about the connections, right? And having that shared goals and outcomes. So I think number one for me is really understanding where the business focus is, what are the business priorities, internalizing that, and then coming with a point of view in terms of how marketing can support the business goals and priorities, whether it's in terms of long-term business development, whether it's in terms of deepening account growth, or whether it's in terms of really just driving new pipeline, right? So I think it's really having that honest and close conversation with your business stakeholders, and then being really earnest about providing your point of view as well as a strategy to help support that.
Nice. How do you measure your success? Is it the only number of leads generated? Is it the engagement of content you create? For you, what are the top three criteria for measuring success?
Yeah, say that success comes on several fronts, right? So, for us, it's always being very outcome driven, and success is first, then seeing that our business, if our business is successful, um, we are successful, right? So I think for me and what I share with my team is that's always the first thing that we look at as our measure of success. Secondly, is of course then coming down to the more nuances of metrics, right? Which I think many marketers are familiar with. So one is in terms of whether a particular campaign has generated a certain amount of leads, and whether that's translated into helping drive business growth.
As a marketer, Don, how do you measure your success? What are the top two or three metrics you track for yourself, and you can say, "Hey, this is good. I've done well today."
Yeah, sure. It's a good question because being outcome focused is always key, right? So that you know where you need to focus your time and effort. Every marketer or every human only has 24 hours. So I think three things that I focus on with my team. One is whether our business is successful, and if so, have we supported in that success, right? So that's really one being um, just back to your previous question in terms of alignment to with our sales colleagues. Um, Number two is then from a marketing campaign perspective, right? So I look after brand and demand generation. So from a branding perspective, how does that brand efforts connect to downstream demand generation? And we measure that along several fronts. Impressions, engagements on our brand efforts, as well as whether that has actually driven sufficient amount of web traffic, right? So that's number two. And the third area of measuring success is really on whether or not our campaigns have driven enough leads, right? And I think that's really a downstream funnel that we look at as well, that led us up to the whole alignment to business outcomes.
Lovely. What's your daily tech stack? What kind of tools do you use on a daily basis? Probably we could learn a bit.
Well, I think technology is the front and center of marketing today, right? So, like many other organizations, we have a CRM platform. So, my first thing, always is to keep a pulse on how our business is doing. So, and what our clients interested in, right? So, our CRM platform called Sales Connect is somewhere that I look at almost every day. So that's one. And secondly is keeping a pulse of what's going on externally in the market, right? So one of my favorites every day is having a 5 minute scroll through Google, what's happening, what's going on in Singapore, but also beyond in the rest of the world.
Nice. Last question. What are the top 2 or 3 pieces of advice when somebody's trying to build their brand, but they don't have a lot of budget like how enterprise software company has?
That's a good question. I'd say number one, stand in the shoes of your clients. The more relevant your brand content, the better the engagement, right? So that's one. Stand in the shoes of your clients. Think like them, right? If you're in their shoes. Number two is think integrated campaigns, right? So sometimes if you have an unlimited amount of budget, not saying that we have an unlimited amount of budget. In fact, we do have pretty stringent budgets in enterprise marketing as well. But sometimes it's easy to say that you want to do a single tactic, right? I want to push out social media posts. I want to do sponsored posts on Facebook, and then that's it, right? But I think across my career, I've realized that if, however, you string different tactics together, for example, a LinkedIn post to driving a call to action back to your website, to then connecting your website with a live chat, for example, right? That can achieve so much more versus a standalone tactic. And that's just one example. Other examples could be how you connect your social media marketing to an event, and then bringing that through the funnel with your inside sales team. So yeah, I'd say the second area of advice that I'll give is think integrated. If you string that together as a campaign, I think that can achieve so much more, even if you have a limited budget.
Lovely. Don, thank you so much for taking your time and sharing your insights with our audience today. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I had fun, and I hope the audience enjoys this too.
Yeah, Don, one more thing. So if our audience would want to get in touch with you to learn more, what's the best way to contact you?
Wow. Well, ping me on LinkedIn. I think that would be the best.
Pretty good. I'll just leave your LinkedIn link in the show notes if somebody wants to try to contact you.
Sure.
Lovely. All right, Don. Thank you
Great.
so much. Have a lovely day.